All right, everybody. What is going on? Welcome to the lunch break today here at FNGO. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Our little midday break with you guys, hang out, talk a little bit. Uh, Take you a minute for some of you guys to get on, but I see Cam's already here in the comment section. What's up, Cam? So, hope you guys are having a good day. A little bit cooler today, kind of, if you could say cooler than normal. But anyway, we're going to talk. And guys, again, if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, y'all give them thumbs up and likes and follows and all that stuff. And then if you're listening to this later, whether it be on YouTube or iTunes or Spotify, I'm putting these on there as well. We hope you guys will enjoy the conversation. So, got some thoughts on my mind today as I woke up. First of all, tonight we got a great live well. I got John Serra, he's a local guy, and Mike Buka coming on. We're going to be talking big swim baits and how to catch the biggest bass in the lake. So that's tonight at 8 o'clock on FNGO. What's up, Wu-Tang fan? And so I hope you'll join us for that. But what's up, Cletus? You guys know how I'm running this show. It's kind of what pops in my mind when I wake up in the morning. So a couple thoughts, one not fishing related, or a couple not fishing related, and one will be fishing related. But Facebook. How many of you guys on Facebook you get every day if you're on there, you see all your friends' birthdays? And I'm friends with probably, I don't know, 4,000 people on Facebook. I don't know. And I don't know them all. What's up, Atlanta Outdoors? I don't know them all. But I get the Facebook going up, and I do this every morning. What's up, Nathan? I pull it up. I see whose birthday that it is today, and I'll go and I'll say happy birthday, do the standard thing. But I'm always cautious, and I want to know if you guys are like this as well. When I see the age, and it's somebody that's 65 and up. What's up, Jeremiah? Nathan, if they're 65 and up, how many of you guys just go ahead and hit happy birthday and send it? Or how many of you guys actually go hit the profile and make sure the people are still alive? I did that this morning. There was a guy and it said 76. And I'm like, I don't want to be the guy saying happy birthday if he passed away this year. So I was just curious if any of you guys ever do that. So yeah, I have to go to the profile page. What's up, Michael? And so I know I didn't even have plan on talking about that, but I did that today and I started laughing because it's something I do all the time. I'm a little nervous when they get a little bit older because I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy, especially if it upsets their family. So I'm just curious if any of you guys ever do that. Now, what we're going to talk about, this is what popped on my mind today. Iron Dome. I do. I used to manage a golf course in a different town. A lot of my old members passed away. Hey, listen, I went to I spoke at a fishing club. Illinois is so hot, I quit fishing so I could catch this lunch cast. There you go, Steven. Appreciate you being here. So anyway, I spoke at this group, this fishing club for this community up here. And I'm sitting back and they take roll and then they go over the budget and everything. And the budget was down. It was down that month. And some guy stood up and asked why. And the guy goes, well, and I'm just going to use names. Tim and Tony passed away this past month and like that. And I'm sitting there and I'm dying laughing in my mind. But I'm like, this is so awkward like that. So you got to check. Hey, we love our older buddies, but you got to check on them from time to time just to see. So anyway, we're going to talk about the Iron Dome. And then we're going to talk about the GOAT. Kind of a little bit different in the way we would normally talk about it. But the Iron Dome. Now, if you guys have been watching the news lately, there's a little war going on. And I'm not going to talk necessarily about the war. No politics here if we can avoid it. But we've noticed Israel has the Iron Dome. That's their missile defense system. Patriot missiles, all the newer technology and all that to help protect them from, other companies launching missiles in there. I've even heard Trump say he wants to do something like that with our country, kind of Iron Dome like that. But that's not the Iron Dome I'm talking about. Very similar, but it's not. And I want to know how many of you guys have this problem. What's up, John? At some point in a woman's life, their defense system becomes an Iron Dome. And I was laughing thinking, when you first get married, and I've been married 30-something years now. When you first get married, you could just touch your wife's back and we're just going to use the word whoopee for the rest of this thing. Um, that's all you had to do. That's all you had to do. You just looked at each other. The wind was right when you first get married and you're young. And you guys know what I'm talking about that've been married a long time. But over time, it takes more and more and more. And a woman builds up her defense system to the point now where I think the female develops this extrasensory perception, an early warning detection, so to speak, that when you're laying in bed and you got your significant other next to you and you start raising your hand and you start making your move, you hear the word no. That's a female's Iron Dome. That's your wife's Iron Dome. She's shooting that missile down before it ever reaches its target. And then you change strategy, and then you try to go a different route. And you can be the most stealthy, quiet guy in the entire world and start making your move. No. I think it happens to a woman about age 45. I got a headache, Cam said. Listen, I got a headache. It went from touching her back to begging on your hands and knees. That's what I'm saying. But it's this Iron Dome. It is your missiles get shot down before they ever reach their intended target. And I was laying in bed. Now, that didn't happen to me this morning, but I was just laying in bed thinking, what am I going to talk about? And that popped into my head. And I don't know why. You guys know me. You know how my brain works. It's all over the place. The missile might not perform as well as it used to. Hey, listen, that might be the case. That might be the case. We might be using old technology, Coleman. But still, how many of you married guys have experienced that where you get shot down no the second the thought hits your mind? The second, you don't even have to make a move. Nathan, mine's young and she's already armed. Listen, that was just unpopular. I mean, that's our daily life as guys, right? You know, the missile might not perform, but hey, you still got to shoot them off. But it was like, I got to thinking about that because as I was watching the Braves game last night, and I can't stand losing to the Mets. My buddy does, and his wife is 30. I get it. So, guys, it's only going to get worse. Those defense systems, I'm telling you what, they are as good. I think you could stop the entire war if you stuck some women out there. They could tell you when the missiles were being launched before our radars even pick them up. So I was laying in bed, and I just thought about that this morning. I started laughing. And but how true is it that women have an Iron Dome? They must have extra senses that can tell our heart rate goes up before we make the move. And John, I'm not even going to read that one like that. Sometimes you got to throw a different colored worm. Bill, I guess it was funny. There was a Facebook post on Blue Ridge 411 today or something. Somebody goes, does anybody know any pineapple groups up in this area? First of all, ballsy move to put that out there on Facebook. But second of all, you should have seen the comments. If you guys are a member of that Facebook page, you got to go see it. There are fewer things that need to go right to launch a space rocket than it does for them to be willing. 100%, Trey. If my wife watches this, she's gonna really get on to me. But is it not true, guys? Is it not true that there's just something at some point in time, that simple sleight of hand movement or anything absolutely will shoot you down? Topwater was fire yesterday evening. Dadgummit Glaze. Glaze wanted me to go fishing with him yesterday afternoon, and I couldn't. So that's cool. Topwater was burning on Lanier yesterday afternoon, but it was hot. Mike Geiger, you're trying to get us all in trouble. I want you guys, okay, seriously, tonight, if you're married, let's do an experiment. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Let's do an experiment. Just see at what point you get told no. I'd like to see how far your missiles are getting shot down. If it's early, because like my wife can tell when I walk in the door. I think when I walk in the door in the afternoon, she just goes no, and that's my reference for the rest of the night. It may be something deeper, but I'm not going to burn my man card here, Tony. Jeremiah, nope. Taking that engagement ring back to the store. I ain't about to live like that. Yes, you will, Jeremiah. Yes, you will. It is something that every man has to go through. It is a part of a relationship, marriage. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying they've got a detection system. And what we as men need to do is we need to figure this out. And if you figure it out, you'll be a billionaire. What was that movie a long time ago? Mel Gibson had it. Corey Hamilton. I'm currently getting a dirty look, and we are currently 23. Steve says, if your wife's Iron Dome is engaged, it just means it's time to go fishing. 100%. And what's up, Western Maine Outdoors? Listen, we love our wives. This is not insulting or anything. This is a naturally occurring phenomenon in a man's life. He says he believes it's a spiritual thing. Too long of a story to go into here. Well, then next time you see me, Tony, we'll talk about it. But anyway, it is something that happens in a relationship. You know, I say our missiles don't shoot as good, and their Iron Dome goes up. She may need one of them worms John had on the show Tuesday. Good Lord, Coleman. Actually, that guy's coming on next Tuesday night. My wife goes fishing with me every chance she gets, so that don't help me none. You got to offer yum to start things off right. You got to get there, Carson. You're young. You guys got to learn this. So anyway, I just thought that was funny. And I said every time we was on this show, we do this daily thing, just give you guys a break during the middle of the day. I was going to pop what went off in my mind, and that was what I was thinking about at 6:45 this morning. 6:45 this morning, my mind said, women have an Iron Dome. And I just thought I was going to run with it. So we did that. So anyway, excuse me, I ate a spicy chicken sandwich from the grocery store up here that's killing me. If I get shot down, she better not ask why the conditioner runs out. Cam, why the conditioner runs out before the shampoo. Motorcycle pit stop. That's wild, Cam. Yeah, comment section is absolutely unhinged today, and that's what we need. We need you guys to get in there. Notice that all you younger guys are commenting. I don't see none of my older followers talking about that because you know what? They know there's a few of them out there, but they know I'm right, and it's going to happen to all of you guys. So anyway, before we and I got a question, Cam. Wouldn't the shampoo be better than the conditioner if we're being honest? I'm just kind of curious as to your thoughts on why you would go the conditioner route and not the shampoo. My wife is laughing while this is going on. She's already ready to go. I'm probably the one that slows us down. Home projects after the kiddo is asleep, put me in bed at midnight every night. Hey, that's part of it too. But if she's laughing, she knows I'm right. So anyway, you guys can debate that. Shampoo burns, Cam says. All right, well, there you go. You might want to upgrade you to some better shampoo. So anyway, okay, enough of the innuendo talk and all that right there, because I know there's some people going like, oh my gosh, they're talking about things. So anyway, the GOAT debate, okay? The comment section is funny. What's up, Silver Punk? What's the topic? In the shower, do you use shampoo over conditioner when the time comes? And does your wife have an Iron Dome? You're young, so I don't think you'll know what we're talking about. Marriage so far, that's it. Yeah, we're talking about marriage. And I love my wife. But she will tell you that I am 100% dead on with what we've been talking about. But anyway, so also too, last night after the Braves game was on, I was scrolling through TikTok or something like that. Now, they are always talking about the GOAT, whether it's Michael Jordan or LeBron or Bird or whoever, baseball, the GOAT. Who's the GOAT? And so we do that in fishing. But I got to thinking, number one, it's hard to determine a GOAT. I still think Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player ever. And we'll get to the fishing aspect of this here in a second. But I grew up in his heyday. We talked yesterday about 80s. I grew up in the 80s. That's why I'm a Van Halen fan over everybody. Okay? It's where you grow up, things you do. So when we talk about the GOAT of anything, the greatest of all time, for those of you that don't know what the GOAT is, how biased are we? How biased are we with our generation? And how do you decide it? So, like, I put out a TikTok, it's been 2 years ago, and I said the greatest angler of all time was Bill Dance. Now, the reason I said that was a combination of tournaments, commercial success, notoriety. You know, everybody knows, they see an angler with a Tennessee hat on, you know Bill Dance. He's not the all-time greatest tournament winning conditioner. Lasts longer. Just don't use anything minty. You guys are awful. It's not me. It's who I hang out with. That's what I tell everybody right there. I got to read Trey's comment. The only thing I've learned in 50 years is that we are like microwave and women are like ovens. It takes a while, and there needs to be some advanced planning that isn't always self-serving. 100%. I tell Mrs. Prick, can you work me in your schedule? But anyway, back to the GOAT thing. Generational. Today's kids think LeBron James is the greatest basketball player of all time, unless you raised him right and taught him it was Michael Jordan. But you got the guys that think Kobe was it. Then you got your old guys that like Bill Russell and all that. So when it comes to fishing, how do we determine the GOAT? Who is your GOAT number one? You guys in the comment section. Who is the greatest of all time? And it can be across all spectrums. It doesn't have to be just your tournament fisherman or anything. There's a lot of great ones, and it doesn't have to be bass fishing. But who's your GOAT? And in whatever niche you are, let's say if you're a fly angler, do you guys argue about it? Is like Lefty, whatever his name, Cray or whatever is he greater than somebody today? Kevin Van Dam, Brand Johnson. Okay. A lot of people are going to say Kevin Van Dam. Okay. A lot of people, but is that based on tournaments and tournaments only? FCP Fishing, Motorcycle Pit Stop. Dana's a good one. He's a good dude. I like Dana. Was my choice of Bill Dance because that's what I grew up with. Everybody's going to say KVD as far as, but is that tournament? Is KVD? No, Randy Block, it is not. But is your choice of KVD based upon what he did then? The entirety of his career, commercial success. Rick Clunn, George says. G-Man is the guy, though, and he's only ounces here and there from being one of the greatest. I get it. Silver Punk, Bill Dance is my hero. Jeremiah says fly fishing. Lefty Cray, bass fishing, either KVD or Roland Martin. Interesting. Saltwater. I got to move that cursor there. So Mark Sosin. Bill Dance or Roland Martin for fishing. Stephen Surgeon says Clunn, Parker, Roland. Those were the ones I grew up watching in the 70s. Nathan Owens, I say, here's where I'm glad somebody did this. Nathan Owens put Doug Hannon, excuse me. I think he was the bass professor. Not tournaments, though. So do we automatically assume, because it's tournaments, that KVD is the greatest of all time? Could he outfish Doug Hannon? Does it depend on what body of water they're on? I guess that does too. But I was more interested in how we determine it. G-Man is great because he's engaging. Josh Tatum, holy cow, this many people actually get a lunch break. Yeah, I think a lot of them are probably working there, Josh. But seriously, how do you determine it? What's your criteria? Because when it comes to, and again, the easy one is to scream out Jordan versus LeBron. LeBron did it forever. Statistically, he is probably the greatest, probably the best athlete to ever do it long term. But is he the greatest basketball player? And the guys last night, they were pros. They were saying, no, it's MJ, then Kobe, then LeBron, because Kobe and MJ, while their careers were shorter, they had a different instinct, a killer mentality, and all that. Alex, KVD is the winningest tournament angler there is, and but that's the question. Why do you guys like the guys? I saw somebody put Rick Clunn up there, a couple of them. Rick Clunn, longevity. For sure. Is Rick Clunn the LeBron James of bass fishing? The longevity's there. Some of these kids today, could the greatest angler of all time actually be fishing right now? It might not have the resume. How do we determine it? What determines the greatest angler of all time? There are going to be guys that are going to say my dad out there. I like Jimmy Houston, too. We got to work on Jimmy's haircut. I know it's probably past time for that with him. Roland has 19 tournaments won and 9 Angler of the Year titles. He's the winningest bass angler ever. But Aaron Martins was a savant. Listen to anyone talk about him. 100%. Jimmy Houston has the best haircut. But that's kind of the thing. Is what determines the GOAT? Is it just straight Angler of the Years? Is it Bassmaster Classics? Is it TV shows? Is it, the social media? What determines it? How do we decide it? Because Aaron Martins right there, look, listen, he got cut short, dude. That's sad. He got cut short, but everybody that talks about Aaron Martens, I don't know that I've ever heard anybody talk more highly of an angler than I have those that talk about Aaron Martens. But the easy one is KVD. He's got the rings. He's got the trophies. He's got all that. What I really want to know in the comment section, what is your criteria? Didn't one of the Martins get accused of cheating recently? Yes, Scott. That was Scott. But now and this again, all I can tell you is what people in here talk about, what we see, we read. That I saw it a lot when that was going on. I saw in the comments of a lot of other people's videos that a lot of the rules that are in Bass were because of Roland, right? The Linder brothers were one of the most knowledgeable across fishing. And that's true, Harrington. See, that's the thing is they didn't fish tournaments. Are they the greatest ever? Because they could fish across multiple species, different things. And then Tony Watkins says, don't leave out Wheeler. Okay, then that brings you in. Can an MLF guy be better than a Bassmaster Elite? Is it because he fishes the MLF and the other names fish elites? Does he get penalized for that? Actually, Roland has more tournaments wins than Ric Flair has world championships. Nathan Owen says, Doug Hannon had a great approach, and he taught you about bass, not just catching them. Okay, there's another layer to it. The teaching angler. Not Defoe is good, for sure. So, I mean, that's kind of – and it just popped in my mind because I was watching the guys talk about Jordan and LeBron. And it really, what I noticed was definitely 100%. There is a generational gap, or generational divide in who thought who was the best. And I've heard Jordan talk about that before. He's like, different eras. There really can't be an all-time great. He probably knows he was, but he said, the 60s are different than the 70s and the 80s and all that. I think Barry Bonds was the greatest hitter I've ever seen with my eyes. Now, you could say the steroid thing and all that, but hell, I think half the pitchers he was batting against were probably using too. He gets penalized a little bit because of the time that he was playing and what he did, of course, for sure. But seriously, so when it comes to you guys saying KVD, as opposed to you guys saying Clun and all that, how much of that is based upon when you grew up? Because back in the day, we didn't know any of the other ones, right? Octapharma and Gerald Swindle would actually be two of the best right now. They are engaging and can be funny. So what you're telling me, Geiger, is the way you approach things is the guys that not only are good anglers, but they're good people, good entertainers, good teachers as well. Who was the best teaching angler of all time in you guys' opinion? What's that big fella's name? I grabbed a handful of his ass at ICAST last year. Oh, good grief. Big man. Fished up north for walleye and all that. He has a bunch of different TV shows, and his name is escaping me right now. I grabbed his butt in front of people at ICAST last year. BLAT, Carson Fowler says is good. I'd say someone like Clun for far less tech when he was dominating. Jeremiah, somebody did say the Linder brothers. Al Linder, that man is a freshwater legend. I think Patrick Sebile has the world record for fishing world records at 370. Steven says, I really think it's dependent on when someone catches fire to fish and who is getting the most exposure at that time. And you're right, Babe Winkleman. So Babe Winkleman, that's the name of that guy. I grabbed his butt, older fellow last year at ICAST. Grabbed a handful of it was a year before. Ryan was with us. Grabbed a handful of his backside. Adam says during prime years, KVD was so dominant. He was like Tiger Woods. And you could do this with anything. They have that debate in golf. Tiger, Jack, Arnold. I'm sure there's some other ones. But fishing is so big. You like the tactical bassing guys. Yeah, Winkleman, that was it, Harrington. I did. Big guy. Nice guy, too. He's getting on up there in age. You guys realize that a lot of our legends are going to be they're not going to be around too much longer. They're getting on up in age. Your Bill Dances, your Rolands, your Babe Winklemans. Those guys, and they're not going to be here. Somebody's got to take their place. So we have to think about that too. But, you know, when we grew up, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have social media. The only time we could watch fishing was if you watched Bill Dance's fishing show, Roland Martin's fishing show. Um, what's that fellow that used to wear the Orlando Wilson was big here in the South. Brooks Anderson will fill the gap. He's on his way. He's on his way. Fluke Master is a good one too. So, you know, that's all we had. And so you also too, that was also a time back in the day. And I can keep going back to Jordan, you know, when he was gambling and all that stuff. How would that have played out in this day and age? How would they have gotten crucified on social media and all that? But think about that. So there was always too, growing up, this strange, almost kind of like legendary status of these guys because we didn't see them. We didn't see them everywhere. We didn't see them every day. We couldn't keep it. Same thing with baseball. You know, we used to have to read the newspaper. And so you would see what a guy in the American League and National League didn't play the American League. So you had to read what that guy was doing over there. Guy B, just now joining in for a little break at Pelican Pete's. The topwater bite is on today. Danny, remember what we talked about some before the show Tuesday? Now it's an issue that I take my lunch break in my car. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Jack Costow. Alex does not like the fluke. And Joe Bennett says the Bass Professor, Doug Hannon. So, see, that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, like, but, you know, back in the day, we couldn't see them all the time. So were they really bigger than what they were, you know, the Rolands of the world and the Bill Dances? And now we see everything every day of what these guys are doing. And so I do think you lose a little bit of that mystery, with guys. Danny, have you had Lucas Black on the podcast? Not yet, but I got his number. I can give him a call. And also, too, Silver Pump brings up a good thing. Your content creators like Steve Rogers, Matt Stefan, Tyler Berger, they're teaching and they're showing. So does that? It's blowing my mind is how we actually bring back masculinity. That's it. That's Lucas Black. How we determine such things, if we can even determine them at all. Or instead of when you say get Sal back on too, I'll get Sal back. Jimmy Houston, Randy Callahan said he's a good one. Hank Parker's a good one. They all taught. They're still around. Longevity's there. Is it really not who the GOAT is, but who your favorite is? Who your favorite is. They do it with guitars. They do it in everything. They do it with guitars. I'll argue with anybody. Eddie Van Halen's the greatest guitarist ever to live, rock guitars. But he's my favorite. I'm biased. When it comes to Bill Dance, I'm biased. I grew up watching Bill Dance. I watched some videos of all the screw ups and everything. I'm biased. How many of you guys think that maybe your choice is biased? Could it be biased? Could it be that way? So that's kind of what I was thinking. I got the shop closed and I got a fella just walked up to the door. I got a big sign on my door. It says shop will be closed daily from 11:30 to 1 o'clock for our podcast. It is a big yellow sign and they're trying to get in the door. I don't understand this world, guys. I think the GOAT is a mix of both. They have to be humble to truly win someone over. Joe Bennett says Oliver, is it G? Is on the forefront of it. That's kind of just, you know, that's the thought of the day is who is the GOAT? Why are they the GOAT? Are they just my GOAT? Are they just my favorite like that? And I noticed a lot of you guys, none of you guys said Sal has some problem with his eyes. And so I have to talk to him and see how he's doing. I think he's doing better. I don't know if they've figured it out yet. Some of the guys today. Could Trey McKinney be the greatest ever to pick up a rod and reel? We don't know yet. The body of work ain't there. But if you stuck Trey McKinney and KVD on the lake right now, would Trey McKinney beat him? I don't know. And so that's kind of the thing. And you're always going to get that argument about technology. You're always going to get that argument about the equipment's better today than it used to be. But then I go back thinking, what would Bill Dance have done if he'd had St. Croix, the rods and the line and the different things that we have today, would he have been that much better? Or Roland or Clun back in the earlier years? So it's really, I don't think that you truly can get a greatest of all time. I really honestly have to agree that I think it's generational. And I don't know what you guys think, but that's kind of what I think. Michael Jordan, if I was starting a basketball team, would be my first pick. I always will till the day I die. He was playing against guys that are not as skilled as the guys today. So I don't know. Richard Jean's fishing machine. He knows so much about all species in Alabama. He'd be great on the show. We can do that. I'll try to get him on. I think I got his. Kyle Welcher. And I've reached out to Kyle a couple of times, and I can't ever get it scheduled with his schedule. Them guys are so busy this time of year, especially somebody like Welcher, Drew Cook, and Walters and all them that fish the elites and fish the NPFL. Can't forget Tom Mann, Charlie Adams. See, there you go. There's always those guys. And you know what? I think, too, it's lake specific. Who's the greatest angler to ever fish Lake Lanier? Allatoona. I know there's some names that keep popping up. I don't know them all, but I know anytime I talk about Allatoona, the last name Thurman always comes in out of somebody's mouth. Nathan Owens, I've really gotten to some of the trout fishing channels lately. Hey, listen. We would do some trout fishing stuff on here, but just it doesn't play on our channel right now. We're going to try to change that. Marshall Cody Stamps. I like how he knows a lot about river bass and species. It's a specific thing. Yeah, they're great. Who's the greatest angler on the lake that you fish? Lake Lanier. If you had to pick one angler to go win a tournament on Lake Lanier, who would it be? Lake Allatoona, who would it be? Been a lot of good guys fishing that. A lot of guys that have come and gone, had their heyday. Will G-Man ever win a tournament? I don't know. He almost did the other day. You could also argue that fishing was better in general and also easier in past decades. So almost all those guys have said things that have gotten more difficult with all the new attention in fishing. True. Silverpunk says, Bob, the boat ramp bank fisherman at Sardis, is the best angler on Lanier. Hey, Alex Prince got a vote. I also think about guys that do not care for the notoriety. How many 150-inch deer have been killed in Georgia that no one hears about? A lot. Or how many 10-pound bass have been caught and we don't hear about it? Exactly. So it's an interesting topic of conversation when you really break it down as to what really, first of all, what constitutes the greatest of all time. Second, if you can even actually really choose it. Don't mean to tell you your business, but maybe you could keep open and let any customer come in knowing that they are part of your podcast. It would be fun if people could keep civil. So, Stephen, that's funny you say that, because every time I get a guy, and like tonight, it's going to be John Sarah's first time. Their first time, they sit down out here, they're talking, they're chatty catty, blah, 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 till I say, all right, guys, we're live. And then it's almost like a woman's iron dome. Boom. It's shut down. It is shut down so quick. We had this, I forget his name. We had this catfish guy on. It's been a long time ago when we was in the basement. And it was during the winter. So it's cold down there. And he's sitting across from me. And his hands are doing this. If you can't see, they're shaking. And I thought, well, hell, maybe he's cold. But he really wasn't talking a lot. About halfway through the show, he said he had to go to the bathroom. He came upstairs for about 5 minutes. Came back down. Boom. It was like perfect the rest of the way. He wasn't shaking no more. He was just absolutely ripping. I don't know if he come up here and took a gummy or threw up. But that man was so nervous. I was like, dude, there's like 22 people watching. So it's not that big deal. But you'd be surprised when they sit in front of a camera. And I try to tell all my guests, you ain't got to look at cameras. Don't act like the cameras aren't even here. But it makes them nervous. So you never know what you're going to get. Another thing too, Stephen, is everybody pretty much that's on the live well now, well, not everybody, but at one point in time, they were somebody that was sitting up here in the background. Father Time was that way. Tim McGuire was that way. They were sitting in the background, and I had an open seat, and I said, jump on. And now they're still here working, doing this. Joe Bennett says on Lanier, Rob Jordan, good choice. Allatoona, Bardet. Bardet is a good choice. Paul Marks and Emil, right now, kind of hard to beat them. Here on Murray, I would have to say Patrick Walters, and that would be 100% a good choice. I went to vacation up in LJ. I wish I could have come by the store. You should have. Alex says, yeah, Tony, first time hosting. Alex says, they freeze right up. Jeremiah says, I remember the catfish man that brought frozen shad to the show. Yeah, he did. He brought some frozen fish. I was going by Helen on the way back, so we didn't come by. That's too bad. We'll be here. You'll come by and see us. Clint does great until it's time to do the sponsors. And listen, here's another one. Denny Brower. I haven't heard Denny Brower's name so far today. No, Harrington, nobody has said Denny Brower. And so that's kind of the point. It's almost impossible. If you say, hey, Bassmaster Classic wins, that is okay, you can do that because you've got data. But really, it depends on who you are, how you like to fish, what part of the country, what professional tour you like watching, your favorite TV show. There's so many things, and these days, social media, there are so many things that go into the GOAT that unless it's just straight Bassmaster Classic wins, I think it's about damn impossible to determine who it is. And so that's just something to think about. It's it's not what we're going to talk about on the live well tonight, but it's just something to think about during the day. We might can talk about it some more. Who's the greatest of all time and why? So that being said, if there's something you guys in there in the comment section too you want to touch on while we got everybody, we can do that too. I say Alex Prince on Lanier for tournaments. Best fisherman on Lanier in general is hands down Kevin Underwood. But, okay, Alex, but is he the greatest of all time to ever fish Lake Lanier? Is Barday the greatest of all time to ever fish Altoona? What about Carter's? All these other lakes. I don't know that many from Carter's or Notley or anything. I know that there was a time that O'Neill Williams said that there was a tournament on Lake Notley back in the 80s. Back when people would go up there before spotted bass got in there like crazy. It took 45 pounds to win a tournament up there, their best 5, and they were all largemouth. This is on Lake Notley in North Georgia. 45 pounds to win a tournament on Lake Notley. Number one, that's unheard of today on any of our Georgia lakes. But think about that. For you guys, if you don't know Notley, it's not very big. They draw it down in the winter. It gets really tough as far as I'm concerned. A lot of guys in the summertime. I fished up there with Kaz Anderson and I fished up there with Jonathan Farmer. And there are some big largemouth. Kaz caught right about a 7-pound Becky when I was with him. He was swimming. He was actually reeling the jig up out from under a dock and it was following it out. 13-foot drawdown is what Charlie Adams said. He just stopped his jig and that thing smoked it. Silverpunk says, I'll be on Notley Sunday. Maybe I'll find those 45 pounds. But Silverpunk, would you believe that if I'd have just told you that? If I'd have just told you that, would you believe that? But O'Neill was telling us about it. See, I don't know how we can do GOAT status with fishing because of how much ecosystem change and with the emergence of new technologies such as forward-facing sonar. 100%. That goes in there. What's up, Rob Robleski? You working outside it again today? Those giant Lanier spots are there. And if you listen, my cousin Glaze was on here earlier, Topwater, and somebody else said Topwater this morning. So Topwater is on fire. KVD's first win was on Lanier. Moist Donut. There's my moist buddy. I used to fish Lanier with a guy in the 80s. His name was Dale Melton. He was an absolute hammer. See, every lake too. And Rob, he grew up on Okeechobee or down there in South Florida. Rob, who was the greatest angler to ever fish Okeechobee or one of those lakes? I think Notley and Burton have bass in them the size of water buffalo from what I've seen and heard, but I haven't fished them. They do. Cletus is back. He was getting his hair cut. Oh, man, he's wanting to look pretty. But, Jeremiah. Yeah. So, but think about that too. Who's the greatest on the lake? Because I've heard there's some, a lot of these older pros retire on certain lakes or live on certain lakes. And so like that. So that's what's tough about it. And you're right. Absolutely. Any smallmouth around North Georgia. They're unicorns now. You still can catch 1 or 2 in Blue Ridge. The Toccoa River has some in them, but a lot of the ones in Blue Ridge are now meanmouth. I would love to see a guide tournament on Lake Lanier. So I've told that to Kevin Underwood that I would like to see a true guide tournament. The problem is a lot of the guides on Lake Lanier ain't going to come fish a tournament. I'll give Kevin Underwood that Emil, of course, and them too. No, Emil guides some, but I will give Underwood credit. He'll jump in tournaments. He will jump in tournaments. He'll fish BFLs. He'll go fish Scott Barnes tournament from time to time and all that. He'll jump in tournaments. But you notice a lot of the guides will not. Now, is that a business decision for some of them? Maybe. I don't know. But I think it would be absolutely fantastic. Rob said Brandon Medlock is arguably the greatest tournament fisherman on Lake Okeechobee. How many of you guys have ever heard of Brandon Medlock? See, that's a new one. I'm sure there have been lots of best of all time anglers that choose to just never go pro. Does Lanier have a world record spot? I'm going to say no. I think you've got to go out to that lake in California where they put the salmon and all that. Does it have one that might? I've asked that question before because you see a lot of 6-pounders. You hear occasionally about a 7, and in Carters and lakes like that. I could it maybe, but I don't think so. I think California, when it comes to, I think Lake Lanier is the best spotted bass lake in the nation. But I think California, that lake over in California where I don't know, it was what's his name? Cody Meyer and Jason Johnson went over there, and they had 5 that was in the 40s. They were holding up 5 spots in the 40s about 6 years ago, something like that. Morgan Falls has smallmouth, nothing big, but you can catch them right below the dam. I do think, doesn't the Savannah River have some? Cleta says there's some 7-8 pounders, but no world record. Underwood could catch a Lanier spot blindfolded with an arm tied behind his back. We'll see, because tomorrow morning I'm going to be fishing with him on his Patreon live. I got to be at Van's Tavern at 6:30 in the morning. We're going to fish for a few hours, and then I'm going to come back. And on tomorrow's lunch break, I'll kind of give you guys an update of what we did and everything. Are they typically bigger on trout lakes? Yes. If they closed Lanier to fishing for 2 years, it would pump out some 9 to 10 pounders, possibly. Castaic. I think that's the name, Stephen. Castaic, Castaic. Hell, I can't pronounce anything. I think that's the name of it. But it has those salmon in it. Coquino, little bitty salmon. That's their bait. It's some kind of salmon they got in that lake. And that produces big ones. It does not produce, there's no lake in the nation, spotted bass lake in the nation, that pumps out the average size that Lanier does. What's the most southern boat ramp of Lanier closest to Allatoona? Little Ridge? Maybe it's off of Buford Dam Road. Mary Alice is incoming. It's got to be one down by the dam, Mary Alice, or I would say that's it, because they're down by the dam incoming. Kokanee salmon is what that is. Yeah, Mary Alice is my guess. Mary Alice is the biggest south down there, and Little Ridge is basically right across the bay from Mary Alice. The one on Buford Dam Road. Yeah, both of that's Little Ridge. And so, but you're basically, when you put in at Little Ridge, you're looking right at Mary Alice. Kevin would smash those dudes. I don't know. The Lanier record was caught on a Texas rig, red shad culprit worm at night. I did not know that. I'm telling you, see, that's another thing too. If we could do the greatest of all time baits, I'm telling you, back in the 80s, a culprit worm was what we threw. And I still got a few on this over here. They're still making them. They're just not sexy. But a culprit ribbon tail worm, either in that red shad or in that black with a silver body. I haven't had much luck on the Savannah with anything but perch and spotted bass, but I also bank fish. Big spots, though. Yeah, they're there. They're absolutely there. So, no, I don't think Georgia has a world record spot in any of its lake. I just think that one's going to be, unless we decide to change how they do. That doesn't surprise me about culprit ribbon tails in Walmart. They're there. You can buy them, yeah. Would you be upset if Hickory Log got overrun with spots? Yes. I think it needs to stay a largemouth lake if at all possible. Because look at it right now, Carson Fowler. Let's take this, and we're going on Hickory Log. For those of you that don't know, it's an electric-only reservoir here in Canton. Largemouth. Occasionally, a guy will catch a spot here and there. You got to realize that that's a pump back kind of thing. They drew the water out of the Etowah. And so I think you get some fry back and forth. So there's a few in there. But on that lake, you got to go through 5 million small largemouth bass to catch a true giant on hickory log. Now, if there's not enough bait to keep the largemouth population of decent size, I definitely don't think there's enough bait for spots. And I just think that would turn that lake, I think spot, unless you added blueback herring, which are definitely going to stay on the upper end of the lake. They're not going to come down towards the boat ramp. I think it would throw that lake in a terrible balance. And I'm not a biologist. I don't know. I can tell you that on Latham, while they're fun, you used to could catch a lot more big largemouth on Latham before the blueback herring got put in there and the spots blew up. The spots have always been in there, but they were always small. But you used to go down there and guys would catch a lot of, and the big largemouth are still there. Don't get me wrong, but you used to hear about people catching them a lot more. World record is somewhere around 12. Let's see. I got some culprit worms. They have a real bad aftertaste. Yeah, don't lick the worms. I've been catching hell for licking Johns the other night on the show. that Magnum. That sounded terrible. Don't repeat that. I think Lanier does have a record spot. So listen, I mean, it's possible. It's possible. But if it does, will you catch it? Carson says, I feel like Latham has gone down the last 2 to 3 years. It'd also be that I just don't know how to fish. No. When we had, now here's an interesting thing, and I won't go into this too deep. But when we had Colin Steele on here, he's a biologist, fisheries biologist. They tagged when the fishing started going down on Latham, when they started seeing the weights decline in the tournaments, a few years back, they said catch and release only for a year. They started tagging fish. They did those kind of things. In his mind, that's the worst thing they could have done for Latham, because he thinks Latham is overpopulated, which is, it could be. There's still a ton of bait, but he thinks Latham is overpopulated as it sits right now, and the balance is off with all the spots, big spots. And you got to throw in another thing, too, in there on Latham. There are giant crappie. What do crappie eat? Same things that bass, largemouth and spots eat. So you got a lot of competition. And don't forget catfish. Everybody thinks they just sit on the bottom and eat crap. Catfish, they chase bait too. So there is a ton of competition on Latham for the resource and the bait and everything. And so a lot of people think there's just too many fish that they actually need to start taking some out. World record largemouth is in Georgia, 22 pounds, 4 ounces. There was caught on a non-existent lake now, Lake Martin, by what's his name? I forget his name. And I think Japan caught one, something similar to that too. So, but there's some kind of line rule or something that it's kind of messed up. Berkeley power baits do leave a taste in your mouth. So anyway, guys, we're done gone 48 minutes again today. So real quick, George Perry. That's right. I couldn't remember his name. So real quick, you guys join us tonight on the live well. I got Mike Buca and I got John Sarah coming in. We're going to talk big swim baits. I tried throwing this one. This is not a very big one, but it is a bull shad. Broke out my new Spro big bait rod. We're going to talk about it tonight, but we're going to try to figure out those guys. And I know John especially loves throwing big swim baits during the heat of the summer. You're not going out trying to catch 50 fish. You're going out there for those 1, 2, 3 bites in a day. You're trying to catch a huge wall hanger. And they're throwing stuff, anywhere from like this Huddleston, but I think a lot of them are going to be more the hard and the glide baits. So, you guys, remember oven, not microwave. Don't forget the experiment tonight. Go home tonight and see how quick it takes for your significant other's Iron Dome to kick in. Now, you might be lucky. You might get through the defense system tonight. And if you do that, we want to know tomorrow on the show as well. So we want to know how it goes for you. But anyway, guys, hey, listen, enjoy the rest of your day. Don't work too hard. Think about some fishing. Come on the live well tonight. Let's have a good time, talk with these guys, and get ready to go fishing this weekend. Might be throwing something different. You never know. So I appreciate you guys. If you guys are on Kevin Underwood's Patreon, make sure you watch tomorrow. I'm going to be fishing with him in the morning, but I will be here as soon as I'm done, and I'll Lake Lanier tomorrow, and we will join you for another lunch break. So, John, I appreciate that you love the podcast. actually, dude, if you knew how much we loved you guys, the names that we see each and every time that we do an episode. I love seeing new names, but I also love the ones that are back every single show. So you guys have no idea how much we appreciate you guys and what it means to me personally. I love this community and this Fish North Georgia family. So we will see you tonight at 8 o'clock. If you're bored, come see me at the shop. And if you're in the area and you want to hang out during the podcast tonight, just be here before we lock the doors about 7:50. Get you a cold beer, sit back here, talk to Buka and them before the show, and talk to them after it for a little bit. So anyway, I know Paul B. Oh, we can't end on that. You ain't sneaking that one in. Stevie Ray Vaughan is not the greatest guitar player of all time. Stevie Ray Vaughan would be on my Mount Rushmore, but he wouldn't be number one. Anyway, we'll end it with that. You guys be good. I'll see you tonight. Damn buttons.